So now we're going to talk about why rebooking is very important. And one thing that I like to think of is the word rebooking is used a lot in our industry. And in our salon company or in my training program that I teach, I like to think of when you're in the salon in front of a client, you're on stage. When you're behind the scenes, like this is off stage. So we can use that word rebooking. But when you're in front of a client, it should be reservation. You can say appointment if that's your style. I just prefer to be a little bit more upscale just so that it's more of a better experience. I mean, you make a doctor's appointment and who wants to go to the doctor, but you make a dinner reservation, like you definitely want to go to that. So I like to use that word reservation. Anyways, we're going to use the word rebook in this video today because that is what we're talking about. And we're backstage, so we can use the word rebook. And it is a data that you really need to make sure that you're paying attention to. It's very important because if you don't rebook your guests, one, they're looking in the mirror at 8 weeks and being like, oh my God, these roots are so grown out. When am I coming back into my appointment? And then she tries to call you and she can't get in because maybe you're on vacation or whatever. But if you would have rebooked that client or offered that at the appointment, and we're going to use a little bit of a script on this today too, that's going to knock out that issue and make sure that you have money on your book next month. The best part about rebook is, for instance, let's just use an example. Let's say that your average guest spend is $100 a person. That's a goal I'd love for you to get to. It's not for everybody. If your haircut is $50 or $60, your average guest spend might be $50 or $60 if you're doing a lot of haircuts. But if you're doing a lot of really big color services that are like $300 to $500 and some haircuts, your average spend might get knocked down to $100. So let's just use $100 as the goal. So let's say $100 average guest spend. Let's say you're starting out, so you're going to see 5 guests a week. And this is real numbers. These are what I teach every day to the people in my company and what I use all the time. So, starting out, you only want 1 guest a day, and then you grow to 2 guests a day, and then 3, and then more. So let's say $100 every guest spend 5 days a week, and you're booked every day, 5 days a week. I have my cheat sheet here. So let's say, your goal is going to be that half of those guests that you see will rebook or make a future reservation for the next visit. If you do that in your entire month, so you had 5 guests at $100 spend, 50% of them were to reschedule. If you took 5 times 100, it's $500 a week, times 4 weeks is $2,000 a month. It's pretty good numbers for starting stylist sales. And then let's say half of those guests rebooked. That means you already have $1,000 on your book. Maybe it's next month, maybe it's the month after. It depends on how long they wait in between services. But that makes it less harder for you to fill those openings that you have on your book currently. So we want to make sure that we're offering the rebook at every visit. A couple of ways you can do it is, let's say my favorite way to redo it is, have you ever had a client sit down and been like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you. I should have been here 2 weeks ago. It happens, and I'm sure you'll hear it. And if you haven't, you're going to pay attention to it now that you've heard this. So when a guest does that, you need to stop your consultation right there and be like, oh my gosh, Ashley, if you wanted to see me 2 weeks ago, let's see how long it's been since you've been in. It was 8 weeks ago since you've been in. So we need to make sure that you're scheduled at 6 weeks to maintain this color. That way you don't have to wait this long again and feel this way, because I don't want you to have that. Or walk around and not feel confident in your hair and your look. So then you go ahead and say, 6 weeks from today is this date and time. Does that work for your next visit? Sure. You just rebooked right in the consultation. Didn't even have to think twice about it. And then you go from there. You also can use your consultation to talk about when they're expected back, plant the seed, or if they're processing and they have 35 minutes to wait, you're not double booking as a new stylist. So you have 35 minutes to talk about all this stuff. You could have the products sold, everything in that time. So I would just say, hey, Ashley, since you're processing, let's go ahead and get you your reservation created. 6 weeks from today is this time and this day. Does that work for you? And you just smile and wait for them to respond. The last one is at the checkout. So if they didn't reschedule in the consultation or during the processing time, then before you tell them how much their bill is, you're going to say, Ashley, 6 weeks from today is this date and this time. Does that work for you? And you wait. Never, ever, ever ask Or do you want to call? Or do you want to do something else? You lead with an open-ended question so that they have to respond to you. Otherwise, if you say, or would you like to call? They're just going to say yes out of ease. And then you have to answer your phone more. So it doesn't work as well. The goal is like 80 or 90% rebook. That's really high, just so you know. And I think standard for the industry might be around 30 or 40%. I know in our salon company, we average anywhere from 50 to 70%, depending on how many new stylists we have, because it takes them a little while to learn. And that's okay. So make sure that you're offering a rebook for your clients or a future reservation, or to come back. Tell them why and when. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Whatever works for you is best. These are just the practices that work best for me.